This is our bandsaw. We use this for making curved cuts a lot. Sometimes if we have to cut just a tiny little notch out of something, we'll do that on the bandsaw. It's basically a big saw blade in a circle that moves around and around, and when you push your wood into it, it cuts it. Let's go over the rules. We've got a 2-inch safety margin, so our hands need to be 2 inches away from the blade. The upper blade guard, that's this, should be adjusted to 1/4 inch above the work. So to do that, there's a little knob on the back side. I loosen this knob, and then I can move this thing up or down so that it's 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch is about a finger, maybe a hair less than a finger. Okay, and then I tighten that thing back in. So that's 1/4 inch above the stock. Okay, we're never going to back out of a long or curved cut while this is running. So we can make a little cut and then come back out of it. I'll just show you. Okay, that's no big deal. But when we make a really long cut or a curved cut, while that thing's running, if we're trying to pull that out, we can actually pull the blade off of the wheels. And, you know, it's dangerous. Okay, don't force the cutting action of the saw. Take your time and let it do the cutting. If you're really forcing it, then number one, you might break the blade. But number two, if you do happen to break through your wood or slip or something, now you have way more momentum and force going into that blade, and you're more likely to not be able to stop, catch yourself, and you might cut your finger off. We don't want that. Number 4, do not force. Oh, I just said that. Number 5, if the blade breaks, shut the saw off and get the instructor. Never open the doors right away. So if the blade breaks, the machine's still running, everything's still working, and what it can do is it can coil that broken blade up in here, and when you go to open the door, that thing's just going to go boing right out and hit you right in the eyeball. I've seen it 1,000 times. So if the blade breaks, it's just going to be a pop, and then it's going to sound a little funny. Then you just shut it off and get me, and then we'll put a new blade on. Do not use your fingers to remove scraps from around the blade. We want to keep our fingers 2 inches away. Now, if there's a little scrap there, I can hit it out with my piece of wood. But if one gets wedged down in this little throat, you got to shut it off and wait for it to stop, and then we can pull it out. Use a V block when cutting cylindrical stock. Where is the old V block? Well, don't fret about that. But if we're cutting something round, we're going to have it in a V block that's going to help keep it from spinning. And then never run the bandsaw with the band wheel covers on. So, not a lot of rules. For the test, you need to know 2-inch safety margin, guard 1/4 inch above. That may be it for the blade or for the test. One thing I want to mention is this is not really a guard. There's a blade right here. There's the blade. So I had a kid one time think that was some sort of hand rest, and so he put his hand here, and he didn't get cut, but he got close enough that it scared him, and it scared me. So we got to be aware that there's a blade right there. They've only had one shop accident, like legitimate accident. There's like a kid, he did stab himself with a chisel one time, but as far as machine goes, a finger endangering accident, we've only had one, and it was on the bandsaw. And the kid was cutting kind of a blank for a bowl, big round piece, and turning it, and he was not necessarily doing anything wrong. He was keeping the safety margin. He had the blade guard at the right height and everything. But the problem was as he cut through that round piece, so as his piece came through, cutting it around, his momentum kind of pushed him into the blade. And so I'm very aware of that. I really want you to, whenever you're cutting, you got to think about your momentum, and I want you to position your hand so your momentum wouldn't put you into a blade. I'm going to grab a cutting board. All right, so lots of times on cutting boards, we're going to cut the corners off of them. I'd probably use a fancier way to draw it on here, but I'm just gonna draw this on here. And so as I make this cut, well, I have to raise my blade or raise my guard. Okay, as I make this cut, I'm going to start basically going this way, and by the time I'm done, I'm going to be basically this way. Well, if I have my hand anywhere over here as I make this turn, once it breaks free from that wood, it's going to want to kind of push into the blade. All right, and so what I need to do when I'm making that cut is once I get close where I'm almost breaking through, I need to position my hands where even if my momentum pushes me, they won't run into the blade. I'll just cut this one real quick. Okay, so I'm a little over halfway, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this hand over here. So as I go through, I'd have to come way around for my hand to be in any danger. And that's pretty much it for the bandsaw.